news, which of course is the temporary suspension of face-to-face education for K through 12. And we have, we have on the phone, we have Tony Diaz from the Archdiocese of Agatna, the Catholic schools, and then in the Zoom room we have Temo Perez of Father Duenas, Jeremy Zychek of Harvest Christian, and Bob Kelly of St. John's. School is in session. Let's, Mr. Perez, if we could start with you, because I know over at FD, the Catholic schools last week were trained on how to use the test machines, and so you guys are doing a testing at FD today, right?
That's correct. We've been doing the Abbott Binax Now test. So it's a rapid test, antigen test, and the public health laboratory did train us. It's through the Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity, ELC, program at Public Health. So we've gotten some tests and PPEs to conduct those, strategic testing. Dr. Wen was saying that we want to watch out for the false negatives, so we don't want to test a bunch of people. We want to make sure that it's targeted at those that need the testing only. And it's important to remember, even when we test here on campus, that it's if you have symptoms, whether you test negative or not, we recommend you go get PCR tested anyway. Because we want to make sure that even if it's negative, you get a test that's going to tell you if you are positive. So, yeah, it's very stratified and very targeted. But we're fortunate to have that program up and running, and we were able to get it ever since the beginning of our school season. So that's good.
What was your reaction, Mr. Perez, to the news that came out? I'm pretty sure you knew before the media, at least, that face-to-face canceled for 2 weeks. Was that something you were expecting?
No, I wasn't expecting it at all. I don't think I found out before the media did. We were called into a meeting with our interim superintendent, Sister Angela, and the other principals of the Catholic schools at 2:45 on Friday, and that's when we found out. Of course, we had seen it circling around our WhatsApp chats and things like that, but it was never officially announced. It is a little disappointing, of course. Our students and our teachers want to be on campus. We worked hard to get our mitigation protocols up and running. I think we do a very good job at our schools. You know, a lot of our schools are able to control, for the most part, what we need to in order to get students on campus safe and healthy. It's really easy to contact trace because we have seating charts. We've got we can monitor really closely who's with whom. I just had a positive over the weekend notify me, and I was able to contact trace, within 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, these people are vaccinated, these people are not, these people are quarantined, these people, will have to test on this day. So it's really easy to do things like that. It's also important to note that our faculty are over 93% vaccinated, faculty and staff members, and then our students are at 82%. So it's very high vaccination rates among our students and our clientele. And that gives me great confidence that, we're stepping in the right direction in our schools.
Something we've heard from GDOE is that the amount of positives are from the community. It wasn't something that was passed around in the schools. What about for FD? How many students have tested positive there?
At our school alone, it's only 3, and all of them have not been traced to school transmission at all. The ones that we clearly identified as community transmission was because it met someone outside. It's their home transmission a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But I just got the 3rd one yesterday. Mm-hmm. That's so the positives we're seeing are not school-based transmission. So I think we're doing a pretty good job at maintaining that level of protection. And I get on a loudspeaker at school all the time, and I'm, wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. And I will even call kids out because I see them right out the window by the PA system, and I'm like, I call their name out and I tell them, put your mask on. So we're very diligent about that. Not the best all the time because there are kids still, but we do remind them a lot.
Jeremy, I know that I want to say, was it 4 cases that you guys had seen since the start of the school year at Harvest?
Yeah, but 3 confirmed cases.
3 confirmed. So were you able to do the contact tracing on those, and would you agree that there wasn't any spread occurring in the schools, or just what were your findings?
Yeah, very, very similar findings for us. There hasn't been, in our community spread. They're coming from the outside community.
Right.
schools have put a lot of effort into making sure, implementing protocols, mitigation measures to make sure that we can be as safe as possible in a school setting. And that even includes, contact tracing. DPHS is tasked with a lot, and we have the opportunity to facilitate and help with that, with seating charts and all sorts of things. So it's a very quick process. When we're made aware of a positive case, parents are notified in that grade level if they've been in touch, if they were a close contact, if they were not a close contact, and so we can do that pretty effectively. And so we hope to be able to continue to do that real soon. We hope this is just a temporary shutdown for the schools.
Jeremy, did you see, though, the concern with, because I know that we're holding up that there isn't transmission at the school level, but when we say it's in the community, I almost feel like that's a massive understatement, because it's not just in the community, it is like in the community, right? Rampant, widespread. They say it's the Delta variant. So did you understand the call to close the schools? I mean, even though I'm pretty sure you might not have agreed with it.
Yeah, we're disappointed. The governor called a Zoom meeting at 2 o'clock with some of the school leaders and described it as a preventative measure. We understand and respect the governor's decision, and we're disappointed in that decision. One of the difficult things in shutting it down without kind of evidence of school transmission is, when can we open, right? So if there hasn't been an issue so far with it in the schools, the issue of restarting becomes really, ambiguous, and there isn't something for us to shoot for, which is really concerning for our students.
Yeah, there's no timeline. The EO just says temporary suspension of face-to-face learning. We'll go to the phones. Tony Diaz, the Archdiocese of Gatineau, on the line. Good morning, Tony. Thanks for joining us.
No, thank you.
I know you can hear we got a little panel going here, but just speaking for the Catholic schools under the Archdiocese umbrella, it kind of looked like, Jason had sent me something. It kind of looked like a lot of the schools are just starting up this week with little to no delay, right?
Actually, none will be starting today. We have 3 will start Tuesday, tomorrow. 6 will start Wednesday, and 1 will start on Thursday. 2 schools, San Vicente and St. Francis, make it 3, as well as Dominican Child Development, will spend the week doing staff development, getting their teachers ready, and they will start online learning next Tuesday, September 7th. So it varies, but one thing that is the same, the teachers, educators, they're doing the best they can, and certainly the students.
Jeremy, I wanted to go back to Jeremy. Are all the students at Harvest Christian Academy, were they able to immediately transition into online learning despite the disappointing news from Adelaide?
We're taking, a couple of things. So our teachers are getting better and better at delivering online learning. It's not optimal. We know that. We did standardized testing even in an online format. Kids their learning trajectories are being affected, so we got to keep that in mind. That being said, all of the experience we have from last year is being leveraged. So we have 1 day of in-service, which is today, to really coordinate some schedules and get some of those things rolled out to parents. And then Tuesday for us is materials pickup, because we were notified after school really on Friday. And so kids need the books and the materials to get going. So we'll be launching Wednesday morning with our online classes.
Bob, let's fold you into this conversation. St. John's, Bob Kelly here. How many cases have you guys reported? And if you could give us the details about the contact tracing and the findings from it.
Sure. So we have a couple of kids who tested positive, but they had never come to campus. They had just returned from California, got tested, and then so they had never actually come to campus. And then we had a couple of teachers, actually fully vaccinated teachers, who are following all the protocols they can. Then there didn't seem to be any, again, the contact tracing went out. We notified the students, we notified the parents, just like everybody else did. I know that public health is kind of swamped, and one of the teachers who tested positive hasn't actually heard from public health yet, but the school went ahead and did the contact tracing on their own. And so, again, it does not seem to have been spread. To kind of pick up on something that you were talking about before, Chris, that there is kind of the concern that if it's out in the community, and then if we bring in what Dr. Wen said earlier, kids are going to walk onto campus with the disease, not knowing that they have it, or just thinking it's allergies or something like that. From that respect, I kind of understand what the governor was saying. It's like, hey, wait a minute, this could be really bad if we don't get in front of it.
Yeah.
By the same token, it's nobody would say it's ideal, except I think my cat. My cat really enjoys online education because she has a lot of people to scratch her head all the time.
But I mean, what's even more alarming, I think, outside of just like keeping the kids safe, is when you read the news in the States about the rise in pediatric hospitalizations, right? So we're looking at an entire population in K to 12, which, I mean, I don't even know the stats of their vaccination status, but I mean, it's really alarming. But what Jeremy had said, Bree, I thought this was really interesting, is there's no, with calling for temporary suspension of face-to-face, you're right, there aren't any measurements, and so it just basically becomes like a judgment call for the governor and her advisors to start schools back up. We had a question in the comments here. Chris, what will keep schools open? Every time there are X amount of students positive, we close? That's what we should be asking. COVID is not going away. So, and I know that's a conversation. I know that John Fernandez at GDOE had put in all these protocols, and that he was sticking with them, and the cases just continue to rise outside with the community. So let me just ask that question, like, at what point, I mean, what number of cases, what number of hospitalizations do you think should trigger a closure of schools? I mean, if at all. Like, what's safe, right, for you guys?
It's kind of interesting when you start thinking about it, because if you follow the contact tracing along, right? So some kid comes into chemistry class first period and they test positive. And so then you look at the seating chart, you go north, south, east, west. And then those 4 kids also then went to, so now you've got 5 kids in 5 classes next period. And now you've got north, south, east, west of those kids in that class period. And so, I mean, it could in theory run pretty quickly through an entire school population. The other one that's more interesting to me are the teachers, particularly those who would teach multiple grade levels. At what point do you start running into substitution problems? Like we're kind of, I don't know about Jeremy and Ismail, but we're woefully lacking in substitute teachers right now, trying to find them to cover classes. I mean, so you run into the situation of, well, wait a minute, we're going to have 20% of our students out, and we're going to have 30% of our faculty out. Maybe it's better to be online. I don't know. I mean, as the point you made earlier, Chris, was that was not obviously part of the governor's consideration. The governor's consideration was that it's out in the community. We don't want it to come into school. So I don't know the answer to that question.
Tony?
Yeah, it's not an easy situation to pick definitively one side or the other. Many times it's looking at it in a balanced way. One thing that is sure is that the number, at least with the Catholic schools, though I agree with everyone else who says it's not at the Catholic schools or the schools in general that it's being spread, but compared to the first year of COVID, these numbers, and we have 30 now, are higher than the first year. I think the first year, if anything, maybe half a dozen. But I don't think anyone really has a handle on the correct answer. The governor did say in a meeting with education leaders before she announced that she acknowledged that it wasn't at the schools necessarily where the big spreads are happening, but she wanted to be proactive. So there's different degrees of acceptance and emotions, but we just do the best we can.
I wanted to ask, in your discussions with the governor, was there any inclination by her or any of her advisors of a possible mandatory vaccination for eligible students?
No, I don't believe so. If
I don't remember hearing that. Jeremy, do you remember hearing that?
No, it wasn't. It was not a question that was asked.
Well, clearly she has the authority. Would you guys be up in arms if she were to mandate that for all students, eligible students, for all teachers in the private schools? Is that something you guys can do or would go along with, or?
We saw private sector restaurants kind of respond, and Yeah, we don't want to be divisive on the issue. I think it's a choice that people have. I think it's an intensely private choice, and to the extent that we continue to publicize it, it creates more division than unity. We respect the medical professionals that are making and advising the governor on these decisions. What we feel like we need to continue to do is be a voice and an advocate for academic and social welfare of our students. I don't feel personally like there's enough of that being weighed into the decision, and I'm not privy to all of the conversations that happen behind the scene, or really many. But it is something that is significant. Our kids at the end of last year, the amount of depression, the lack of motivation from logging into a Zoom meeting every day, it's a real issue. And we had about 2 weeks of education here, and we thank God for being able to develop those relationships with the students and hopefully guide them through a very temporary shutdown. But if this continues, I'm really concerned about the academic and social trajectory of our student. It's very, very significant.
Yeah, it's we saw the same type of things again with our kids as well. And so we do worry about that. We're actually up and running right now. Our classes are being delivered right at the moment. I don't know if you can hear third grade Japanese in the room next to me. My son's out in the front with his history class going on right now. But it is not. I mean, there are online schools in the world that do a great job with online schools because that's what they want to do, and that's what. But we aren't. I mean, none of us are. We're about what goes on campus. The experience of a Harvest kid, the experience of an FD kid with that interaction with that teacher, with the administrators, with their friends. I mean, that's really what our schools focus on delivering. And trying to deliver that online it's not ideal.
Yeah, and just to echo back, it's the same. Like Bob said, an FD experience is not complete without being around your classmates and your brothers. And sports, the big thing about sports being closed down, there's going to be a lot of sports that are allowed to happen outside, but not the school sports. And so our student athletes are deeply disappointed. The football team's been practicing, and there's not going to be anything for them to look forward to if we keep this going. This season's going to be pushed back weeks and weeks. So we're deeply concerned about it too. This is, I don't know if we realize it, but this is the third academic year that's been affected by COVID. So it's some of these kids, this is going to be the third time they've had to shut down and go online. And there are real stories of students who they don't make it through very well because they get so depressed and they don't want to log on, they don't want to do anything, and it gets to be a big issue. And I'm sure it's happening in every school on the island, maybe even in the world. So it's a social, emotional, as well as an academic and athletic thing. It's all around. This is everything our students, that's who they are. They don't have jobs or anything. This is what they do. They're students, student athletes,
right?
Part of our schools.
Tony,
so we are looking for that measurement to get back on campus, and hopefully they do, like Jeremy said, engage the professionals in the education field and look for solutions, because we might be able to come up with creative ways to do that, to get back on campus in a safe way, even if it's cohorts, half campus. We might find ways to do academics on campus in a safe and controlled way that might meet requirements.
Right.
But we need to be given that chance to help with that solution.
Tony, is that kind of what the conversation is with the Archdiocese relative to all the schools under their belt?
Yeah, really, I think, like everyone has been saying, the most important thing is that we pay attention to our kids, whether it's online learning, whether it's on-site learning, whether we're talking about the schools or not. This is a time where our kids are most vulnerable, confused, and unsettled. We all know that our children need stability and know that they're being loved. So from a faith component, that's what we can all do. Just pay attention, extra attention to our kids and one another, and just be there for one another, especially our children.
I want to ask, we know that Mr. John Fernandez, he has meetings with the administration. I'm just curious if any of the private schools or any of you guys have kind of like maybe not weekly, but consistent, like monthly maybe meetings with the administration? Not just you, Tony, but any of the other private schools that are on the call. We can start with you.
We do.
When's the
We
last?
don't have any formal meetings either, but we try to stay in touch informally in different modes of communication, just so that we can continue to provide input from our perspective.
Tony?
I wouldn't say monthly meeting, but we have met quite frequently since the pandemic started with, if not the governor's office, public health certainly, as they've been very good, even in their limited time with meeting with us when we have questions, whether it's regarding the schools or the churches, and certainly we're glad that we were part of the meeting with school education leaders before she announced to the public. Although it would have been really, really, really good to get more advance time, right? I think everyone would agree, but we understand time constraints sometimes.
Right, but you guys, private schools weren't
For
informed
input
till.
rather than just hearing what the decision is going forward would be helpful.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Jeremy?
Yeah, just the opportunity to provide input into the decision instead of just hearing, after a decision is really being made. I think that's important.
Right. Bob, feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, as with everybody, it's a small island. We do know people who know people, and as we all do, and but again, it's it should be ideally a conversation. But we support the governor and we support her actions, but that's it's what it is.
It is what it is. But it just kind of reminds me of what last year we were kind of talking about this. I think most of you were the same thing, that there should be more dialogue, more communication, and I guess that's not necessarily happening, and we're in the third surge. Jace?
Yeah, you could probably just record this and put it on next year. It'd be the same conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the depressing thing. If we follow the same pattern, we're going to be shut until December, and then maybe an A/B schedule January through April, and then the chance to come back for the last couple of weeks. And that doesn't excite many educators. That doesn't excite many students. So we need to come together to try to find a better solution.
Yeah.
Well, gents, I do have a question, because and the frustration from each of you in your body language and in your voices is more than evident, and obviously justified. And at the same time, the students that may be watching this now or later, as well as the faculty, they're going to take their cue from you. And even though you've been giving the same motivational speeches and kind of rallying the troops, for lack of a better term, what words, and given that you're all private schools, is there a certain part of scripture that you can cite, or what do you tell the teachers and and the students to say, we got to lock in, we got to keep going?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was looking that up because we're going to meet with our teachers in just a few minutes. But 2 Chronicles 20:15, actually that whole passage is really awesome. King Jehoshaphat, he's got an invading army outside of his city. They're walled in, and they don't have enough resources to be able to tackle this challenge. They just don't. And so King Jehoshaphat just turns it over and said, Lord, this is your battle. It's not ours. And so we know God's in control from our perspective. It doesn't surprise God that this is happening. We're frustrated by it, but we know that's not outside of his control. So the thing that we do is place our trust in God, be faithful in what he's called us to do, which is trying to educate students, advocate for our students, and we gotta leave the outcome to God. That's our perspective here at Harpest.
Now, Bob, I know you've never shied away from using a little bit of humor, as in getting the message across and everything like that. Is that kind of effectively the approach that you're taking with the community there at St. John's?
I mean, are you asking me to argue with the Bible?
No, not at all.
I'm not going to do that. I mean, we spent the weekend. We had training calls with the teachers, and again, we're just trying to keep it as positive as we possibly can. And again, it's as the point's been made, it's not new. We've not had tremendous turnover in our faculty. We're all and really, I mean, if you've been watching the headlines from KUAM News, you would have, you could have anticipated this fairly easily at some point. Whether it was, last Friday might have been a surprise, but we all kind of knew it was coming at some point. So, Yeah, again, I started the conversations about 2.5 weeks ago with the faculty saying, hey, be ready. But really, let's make the best of a bad situation is really the best way to put it.
And then, Mr. Perez, finally to you, for a school that's got so much tradition and, that is practiced, generations deep of Guamanians, they go there and sons and grandsons and everything like that, how do you keep the students and faculty motivated?
Our motto, Fortes in Fide, Latin for strong in the faith, is very helpful in this situation. We're a bunch of men, and being strong no matter what the situation is very, very important for us. But also to be faithful, strong in our faith. And in our Catholic Christian faith, very important. Be true to you, also be faithful to your call in life. Whether it's a father or a son, or whatever your role in life is called to be, you need to be faithful to that. And right now, it's being faithful to the mandates that we can, get through this together, so that everyone's healthy and safe. So strong in the faith is one that really helps draw our community together and pull us through tough times.
Absolutely. Okay, and then final word, I guess, from a macro perspective, Tony, your thoughts.
Well, just like what everyone says, and I mentioned, love one another, just be kind to one another. That's what Christ demands of us in good times and bad times. This is certainly difficult times. That's what's going to pull us through, the human spirit and the resilience and love that we're seeing in many ways at the schools and throughout. So we thank everyone for what they do.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bob.
And good luck to
Thank you,
to
Tom.
all of you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, guys.
Keep us posted. All right, there you go. Class dismissed. Thank you for joining us for our online